Well, my next guest is the CEO of Uranium Energy, and he's already been seeing an increase in enriched uranium imports from China, saying tariffs will only accelerate that. Amir Adnani is the CEO of the company, one of the largest uranium miners in North America, and it's great to have you here. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly.
So investors are going to be sort of confused. They're going to say, okay, shares are down today. They're down 40% since the fall, and yet here we have this talk about kind of reshoring our energy supply, which should benefit you. So just disentangle that for us.
Market doesn't like uncertainty, and tariffs have for sure created uncertainty around the industry. And really, when you go back even to DeepSeek, which was about a month ago, we've seen the entire nuclear sector and uranium sector start to move one leg down after another. And so this is just, I think, par for course when you have uncertainty in the market. But tariffs are complex, and we certainly don't want to get ahead of them. But on a positive note, we're seeing a premium right now on uranium that is warehoused in the U.S. So there is certainly positive green shoots developing, but it's just so complex, and obviously questions need to be answered.
Yeah, I mean, you look at NVIDIA, which was down 5% at last check, and your stock in many ways seems like it's a high beta play on what's going on in terms of chip demand and everything that people are expecting on that front, which is kind of a tough place to be.
I never thought, in all these years doing this, the company was founded 20 years ago by myself. 20 years doing this, I didn't think we'd be correlated to NVIDIA.
Yes, exactly.
We should be correlated to supply demand for uranium, plain and simple, right? And
which in the long run you should be, right?
100%, but you're 100% right that these correlations have been created over the last 6 months, perhaps, in particular. And what we're noticing, too, though, is, and what's most troubling is the fact that we're importing almost 100% of uranium requirements and nuclear fuel requirements into the U.S. 100% of it.
And do you know the breakdown of where that comes from? Obviously, a chunk is Canada, and a chunk of that is Russia, right?
Our biggest concern last year, based on stats that were made available, were the amount of and the spike we saw in Chinese uranium product imports into the U.S. And Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan certainly are actually some of the biggest suppliers over the years. U.S. has had a trade imbalance when it comes to uranium and nuclear fuel issues. And so to some extent, you would argue that Canada as an ally is not the big issue here. We have significant trade imbalances, importing practically 100% of our requirements. But state-owned companies of China and Russia play a far more important role than Canada does.
So you're based in Corpus Christi, as I understand it. Where are you mining the uranium here in the U.S.?
We're 6 months into a phased ramp-up in Wyoming. Okay. Wyoming is where we just hit a milestone last week, drying and drumming of our first uranium concentrate.
But are there any other uranium mines in this country, or...?
There are several projects that are trying to get off the ground. UEC, my company, as you mentioned, is the largest and fastest growing. We're operating in Wyoming. We're building a new mine south of Corpus Christi in Texas, and so that's going to be coming online later this year. So we're seeing all the market signals here to grow domestic capabilities.
If we gave it a long enough time, I know we can't bring this stuff online that quickly, but how much of what we're importing do you think we could replace with domestic sources?
We have an industry association, the Uranium Producers of America, that surveys the whole industry. And they've put out reports that over the next 5 to 10 years, we can see production go from basically nothing to 20 to 25 million pounds. And the country consumes about 50 million pounds per year.
Wow, so half the supply?
Half the supply of what is available.
Is that then, so if I'm sitting, in the White House thinking through this and you come, you say, look, we're getting more from China. Is that what you want? We're getting more from Russia. Do I say, well, but, we just wait a few years and your great company and others, you're going to be able to replace that very quickly?
But despite what we just said about the uncertainty, though, the White House actually last week came out very clearly with the executive order on the creation of the National Energy Dominance Council. It talks about, and one of the objectives is that we need to address national security of energy supply chains, and that uranium is an amazing national asset. And Energy Secretary Chris Wright has had a secretarial order to unleash the commercial nuclear power capabilities for grid reliability. And so we actually think there's a huge market dislocation here. The fact is, this administration could not be any more clear about wanting to rebuild American energy production capability and its supply chains.